preparing. All right, everybody. My name is Alicia All. I am with Level Up Score. I'm actually the founder of Level Up Score, and I have with me today Ashley with Cape Credit Repair, and we want to talk about student loans. So the title of this is your credit reports busted by student loans, and how can we fix that problem? So Ashley is here with me. Ashley, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Oh, wait, before you do that.
Yes.
So the reason Ashley is on this live with me is because you guys have been asking me questions like crazy all the time. I get emails all day long. Allie, how do you handle student loans? And you guys all know my philosophy. If I get a lot of questions, I don't like to answer them anymore. So this is my way of answering it to everybody all at one time. But I brought Ashley because Ashley has been on the news speaking specifically on this subject. So I think she brings a lot of good value to this. So please feel free to ask questions because that's what we're here for. I'm going to start doing this every Tuesday. We're going to have the Tuesday top tips, and I'll have different people coming on with me to talk about different tips on how to be better in our organizations to help serve our clients. So, Ashley, go ahead, give us a little bit about you, and let's take it off.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me first, Alicia. My name is Ashley Deal. I am the owner and CEO of Cape Credit Repair. We're located in Southwest Florida, right under Alicia up in like with Sarasota.
Yeah.
We've been in business for about 2 years. Our main niche is helping clients with student loans and late payments. So, as we all know, back in October, they started reporting student loan late payments again to credit reports, and it's essentially tanked like hundreds of my clients' credit scores. Like
100 plus
yeah,
points.
100 plus points. I've even seen 200 points if they have like 20 plus student loans.
Mhm.
So just like Alicia, I've been getting questions on like how can I get this fixed? Like what can I do? Like I thought it was in like a forbearance or a deferment. I didn't know a payment was due. I wasn't contacted. So how we do it like where I live is in Southwest Florida. We have a thing called like natural disaster relief. LA would have it too. Tennessee and North Carolina right now. Anywhere that FEMA has like declared like a natural disaster. Um, Essentially, all student loan servicers are supposed to put a mandatory pause on your student loans when you're in this area of a natural disaster. And it doesn't happen automatically all the time. And a lot of people in Florida were impacted by like the last two hurricanes, Helene and Milton. And essentially, they have to call their student loan servicer, let them know that they were impacted by those hurricanes, and they thought that they were placed in that mandatory forbearance or deferment, and that they had no idea any payments were due. And when they tell their student loan servicer this, and they let them know where they live, uh, usually we can get those 90-day lates to 120-day lates removed like retroactively and actually continue that hurricane forbearance or deferment. But the thing is, like me myself, my address for my student loans are still at my parents' address in Virginia. So if say I had a late payment and I currently live in Florida and I haven't updated my address with my student loan servicer, then they would have no idea to place me in a pause. That's why it's really important to keep your personal information like up to date with the student loan servicers. But lately we've been having a lot of luck with that. And what's great for clients is that can be a completely do it yourself thing. You wouldn't have to pay another company to try to do that. So whenever I do consultations with my prospective clients, I let them know, let's try this first. Let's have you call your student loan servicer, see if we can get it like removed retroactively that way. And then if we can't get it off that way, then we'll take it through like a dispute workflow and reach out to the creditors like us as a business.
And I think what's important that you just said is this is about national disasters, which you're specifically speaking on right now. But a lot of people think, well, that has to be like a big, huge thing that happened. But like, a couple years ago in Ohio, for instance, there was a tornado that hit this one area. That area was considered a national disaster, just that area. So it could be a tornado that hit an area. Different things like that can affect that. So I think it's important. Don't just assume like, oh, well, this, we didn't have this huge thing that happened here that it would not apply. You might want to kind of dig in and see if there's been, a tornado in your client's area or something like that that could
Even
fall out.
like an extensive amount of rainfall can qualify for a natural disaster. Like the flooding recently and like in Texas, like not even in like the areas of like the highest flooding, but like surrounding areas, like they were declared areas too. So it's all
Mhm.
about making sure that you're letting your student loan servicer know that you were impacted by something and seeing if we can get that retroactively deleted for free.
Yeah, and you also talked about having your information updated and corrected. I think a lot of people would not have gotten the lates in the first place. They would have known that they were in forbearance or coming out of forbearance or anything if they had their address correct. I think sometimes we get a loan and we have this extended long forbearance period. We forget we moved, we did this, we did that, whatever that might be, and we're not getting that communication. It's really important that you keep that information updated. Another thing Ashley said that I think is really super important is she's having the consumer call the student loan company. That is my first move as well, Ashley. I have the consumer call the student loan company unless they absolutely won't. We all know we have some consumers who don't want to do
Like I don't
anything.
want to do
They
it.
they paid you money and you're the magic worker and you're gonna magic wand it, right? But I really encourage them, hey, if we want to really get these results, one of the things that I have them do is immediately look at getting in repayment or getting in another forbearance. A lot of times they can call and they can say, hey, I just saw that on my credit report I got hit with some lates. But can I get into a forbearance? And they will. They do it all the time. And I've had people who went in forbearance for 6 months after that late. So that's another way that you can get them back on track so that we're not continuously getting those late payments, right? So we can stop the bleed on that, if you will. So I think that's really important. Having that phone call is can be very magical. Actually,
Especially if that's the only thing on their credit report that's negative too. Because like I'm very weary about like what clients I do take. Like if I think something that could be done like directly by that client without them paying me, paying me, then like I'm gonna give them that advice and see if it sticks that way. Like if they came to me with like a bunch of other collections on their credit report, late payments, things like that, I would automatically take them on, and still give them the advice to call their student loan servicer. But if it's just student loans and I think we can get it off that way, I'm definitely gonna have them do that themselves.
yeah, I think that's a good takeaway. You get a lot of referrals from like loan officers and real estate agents. So guys, all money is not good money, right? If you have a client that you can give some short, quick advice to and they can run with it and do that, you're going to look like an all-star to your referral place. And they're going to be like, hey, Ashley will really help you. And people know you that way, Ashley. That's why you're so successful in what you're doing because you really do truly care about the consumer. And that's, it's not all about the dollars, but because you do that, you get more dollars because now you get more referrals because now they trust that you're going to do the right thing for the client, which I think is really important.
Thank you.
Okay, question for you, Ashley.
Mhm.
And maybe you haven't dealt with this. So if you haven't, you can just say, hey, I haven't dealt with that, and then I'll step in. Okay. So what if the consumer has lates on their credit report because it's out of deferment? If they're getting that 90-day, blah, blah, blah. And they come to you, but there's no national disaster. There's nothing that on that end that you can do. What would be your steps in that case?
So I would always see if I like can find discrepancies and how these late payments are reporting like across all three bureaus. Like if we have mismatching months, if essentially if they're not like in one of those areas, I will take them on as a client because that's essentially what they can do by themselves right now. So I would take them on as a client and I would try to look for those errors in their report. And if I don't see anything, I actually learned this from you, Alicia, to actually dispute with the creditor over them not reporting 30 and 60-day lates because I was actually not doing that before. We actually met in person, and you told me that, and like that's been like great for getting these late payments off of their report. So if you wanted to elaborate on that, I'm sure everyone would love to hear
Yeah,
it.
I think this is the gold, guys. This is the gold. So you have, Ashley dropped some stuff on there about the national disasters and what she's doing with that. But I want you guys to really think about it. You're a credit expert. Look at that credit report and tell me what you see. We're looking for egregious errors, right? So reporting has to be accurate. So if we're looking at a student loan, it says 90 days late. Where's the 30? Where's the 60? If there's no 30 and 60, it's an egregious error. So all I have to do, and it works 100% of the time, I've never not had it work, is I write a letter to the credit servicer of that student loan, right? Not the credit bureaus. That stuff is just crap. You guys know me, I don't dispute to the credit bureaus anyway, but I'm going straight to student loan department that's holding that, and I say this, hey, I received my credit report and I see that there are some errors on my credit report. You're reporting me 90 days late, but there's no 30, 60, blah, blah, blah. I need this from every single time they remove it. Every single time without delay, it's gone. But not only is it gone, it's not just the late, it's the entire student loan. Now, I will tell you that that can be an issue if you are trying to help someone get a home loan and that is their only trade lines that give them the history, right? You're going to get that whole, I've never seen it not happen where the whole thing comes off, right? I don't know, Ashley, if you've seen differently, but it's like the whole thing just comes off. So just understand that can pose an issue. And then you might have to then send another letter and say, hey, I need to get this thing back on. And then you might have the same problem where the relates are back on there. Hopefully not. I haven't had so far in my experience had it back on through the process, but just know that that could be something that could jeopardize the situation.
Oh,
But number one, the clients are getting back in repayment and they're getting back on track first before I even write that letter. I think that's really important.
So correct me if I'm wrong, if they are deleted from their credit report, is that going to be coming out of their debt to income ratio for a mortgage?
It
Or is
would.
is still going to be in their ratio based on like the reporting system online?
So it would be out of the debt to income ratios because we wouldn't actually know about it
Okay.
unless the consumer, which the consumer is supposed to tell us, right? So when we do a loan application, we're going off the credit report and what shows up. But there is stuff outside of the credit report. Like let's say you had a personal loan with someone. Legally, you're supposed to tell me you had that personal loan and what that monthly payment is, right? I mean, that's really what you're supposed to do, but do people do that? No. But so if you're not telling the loan officer about it and you're not providing that documentation, I might not know and it wouldn't factor in the debt to income ratio. That's a great question. Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Tamara. Hi, Ashley. Nice to
Hey,
meet you
Tamara.
again. I wanted to jump on because I had this one of my clients, well, we all know lately, student loans hit a lot of individuals, causing them to lose over 100 and something points. I have a client that we got everything. He's did the forbearance, went through the application, and now we got a letter stating that his loans were forgiven and the date is 2022. Now, just recently, they hit him with 120 days late. So I just got this letter, and how would you suggest I handle it? Go through the same route you were saying,
Yeah.
Alicia, to get this off?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because if it is forgiven, then even if they take, let's say they didn't take it off and it's forgiven and they zero out and they take the lates off, it's already not a part of their factor of their credit score once it's closed. So that history doesn't count anyway. So you might as well just send the letter and hopefully it just gets removed and it's just
So
gone.
I've actually had a very similar situation with a few of my clients, and I attached that letter to my bureau disputes and my creditor disputes, and it typically comes off in that same round.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do today. I was preparing this and then I saw this on Facebook and I'm like, I gotta jump on.
Yeah, I'm
Perfect.
glad you
What kind of
did.
forgiveness
Yeah.
did they get?
Because of the working industry that they were in,
Public service
he's,
forgiveness.
Nice.
yeah, so he got a forgiveness, but I was so shocked to see that it said 2022
Hmm. Yeah.
and he has 120 days that just hit his credit report 2 months ago, late payments.
What I would recommend, because I have had a situation like that where the loans that are actually reporting weren't part of the forgiveness. Because remember, with the public service forgiveness program, it's a 10-year program. So he
Right.
may have had some loans that were included and it's been 10 years and it got forgiven, and he's got other loans he's gotten since then. Because I had a client that exact thing happened, and I was like, well, why are they reporting you owe balances and you're in default when you got this student loan forgiveness letter? And then when I looked into it and went on to studentaid.gov and we compared everything, I was like, oh, hey, dude, these loans right here are new. These are newer. They're not involved in this student loan.
Yeah, I did that research. I
Okay,
did
yeah, if
that
you got
first.
that, then do
Yeah.
exactly what Ashley said and you will have no problems.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, very well. And you might, if you want to make it faster, like I don't know what your time frame is for your consumer, but actually having the consumer call the student loan company can speed up that process than you just writing a letter, if
Okay.
they're willing to make that phone call.
All right.
I
Sounds
think
good.
that's what Ashley was saying earlier about with a national disaster is that she can have her consumers call and get that issue fixed right away and not necessarily have her step into it. So I think that's important for you to know. Yeah, great
Thank
question.
you.
Any other questions? I'm kind of looking to see if there's any online and I don't see any so far. So
Yes, I have a question.
yeah.
All right, so I know she mentioned about her process when someone is in a disaster area, but you kind of touched on it, but can you just touch on it again? Can you dispute student loans that were supposed to be deferred or in forbearance? And if it's not disputed, will that stop someone from getting a mortgage loan or a car loan?
So if there's a late payment reported on there, when you go for anything and like there's a notice of dispute marked on there, that notice of dispute has to be removed in order to like to even qualify for a mortgage. But a lot of these 120-day, 90-day lates will disqualify you, especially with it being on an installment loan. But that's definitely a better question for Alicia with her lending background. What do you think, Alicia?
Yeah, so if if it's student loan lates that are like over 24 months old, we really don't care about them. So if we're talking about older stuff, we don't care. But if it's in the most recent 24 months, especially the most recent 12 months, that's a big deal. But we're also looking at the last line item. So if we're seeing like 30, 60, 90, 120, and then we see collection, 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 not only is that an issue on the credit report itself, but one thing you guys should know as credit professionals, you might be able to get that off with some magic, right? Let's say you wrote the letter and you got it off and they took it off. That does not take it off of CAVERS. CAVERS is a report that we pull. It's a government, kind of almost like a government credit report, if you will. Okay. It lets us know if you have any defaulted debt with the government, whether that's student loan debt or whatever that might be. If you have defaulted CAVERS, we have to fix the defaulted CAVERS before we can move forward in the loan process. So that's why I said in the beginning, if we're going to be working on getting that 90-day late off, the 120-day late off, we first need to have the client call the student loan department to get everything back on track. Because even if I were to get that off and they continue to be in default and they didn't fix that, now I got a defaulted CAVERS, they can't buy a home, right? So it's kind of the same kind of concept if we think about as credit repair organizations and we get a negative thing off of someone's credit report, right? Let's say it's a charge off credit card for $5,000. We get off the credit report. Ashley, you know what I'm talking about. We talked about this a couple days ago. $5,000 charge off credit thing is off your credit report. It doesn't mean you don't owe it. Unless I got a letter from the creditor that says this person doesn't owe this, you owe it. And so what may happen, it happens a lot in my industry, is then I'm pulling a SAGE report and I see a judgment on there. Well, guess what? I can't proceed with a judgment that's not handled in some way, shape, or form. And if we're going to put it on a payment plan, I have to have 3 months history of the payment plan. So I think, and that's why, I had that class last week about how to work with how credit repair companies should work with loan officers. You can't do things just to like what I call fake credit repair, right? We're just trying to get whatever we can off of there. Yeah. And that's very often. And the reason why a lot of, and this is a whole nother class that I did last week, and you guys can buy the recording if you want, but that's a real big reason why credit or loan officers don't refer to credit repair companies, because it's fake credit repair. And then they actually pull the file and now they can't do the deal, or they did a bad loan and it's a strike against their license later, and too many strikes, they lose their license, right? So as credit repair professionals, we need to be compliant. We need to be working on behalf of the consumer to get them to their goal the correct way, not fake it. And then also making sure we're handling the issue. So if there is a charge off, like for me, I don't care if there's any charge offs on the credit report. Okay. I don't like collections. I don't want any collections, but I'm okay if there's charge offs. I'm completely okay.
Aren't charge-offs typically excluded?
We exclude them.
I love that.
Yeah. Now, if it's a certain dollar amount, we have to include it as they're making a payment on it. Okay. So it would be
You include a certain percentage. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
As a payment. Yeah. We assume there's a payment. I know that's one philosophy with lenders that used to not be the case. That's a newer thing where we stopped caring about charge-offs. I don't agree that that's a good thing.
I don't either. I don't understand what the difference really is. I mean, like
there's not, right? There's not, but they think there is. So, whatever, it's helping people get loans that they otherwise couldn't. But yeah, that's a great point to know. We don't care about that. But if it's an unresolved issue over time, what is that creditor going to do? A lot of times they're going to sue you, or they're going to send this person a 1099-C right? Which could cause issues. So there's just a lot of things that we have to understand as credit repair professionals to really be helping our clients.
So speaking of like the liability for the debt, I always like to know like the statute of limitations for like every single client that I have, that like whatever state that they're in order to tell them like they can still sue you for this debt, or they can't come after you for this debt anymore. And honestly, my advice is if it's past the statute of limitations, I'm not going to tell them to settle that debt if it's been deleted from their credit report. But if it's within that range for them to be able to take them to court, I typically do give that advice.
Yes. And since we're specifically talking about student loans today, they are the forever loans.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about student loans. I'm talking about charge-offs.
Forever
Not student
loans.
loans, guys. They're forever.
It's not going to go away, and that's with all
They'll be
federal
engraved
debt,
on your
right?
tombstone.
It will be engraved on your tombstone. And matter of fact, if you leave money at the table when you pass away, they will take that money. So
Yeah.
so it will go with you. But yeah, no, that's great information. Yeah. So yeah, you want to make sure that you're actually handling the situation. We can't just, I gave you the magic of getting the lates off the credit report, but know that the magic really is in making sure the client understands how to get that back on track so that it doesn't become further damage for them later, right? And then if you're really great at it, learn, like asking questions for your consumer and saying, hey, what do you do for a living? That's a great question, because you might, and I've done it so many times, I can't tell you. I ask a simple question. I see student loans on their credit report. I'm like, hey, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a nurse, or I work for this nonprofit. I've been working for this nonprofit for 20 years. Oh, have you filled out the public service forgiveness application? No. And then back in September 2022, I can't tell you how many student loans I got forgiven. Or are you disabled? Oh yeah, you're disabled. Okay, have you filled out the disability application for student loans? No, I haven't. Okay, we're going to fill that out. Now we don't owe student loans. So there's a lot of things and a lot of questions you can be asking your consumers to make this even a better situation for them with their student loans. I'm surprised, and Ashley, you could probably say the same thing, and those of you who are on this call, I think I'm surprised at how many consumers don't know of all the different things that they have available to them when in regards to student loans. We can talk about all kinds of things, but specifically about student loans, that they are in a working for a nonprofit and they didn't know that they had public service forgiveness, or they're working as a nurse or a police officer or whatever. It's like they don't know, right? And so that's again where we become their trusted advisor. That's why I hate our name as a credit repair organization. That's not what we should be. We should be trusted advisors on all things credit and finance, right? And that's why I keep harping on you guys to make sure you have a niche, because if you have a niche, you could be so good at that thing, right? And no one can touch you in business. You will make so much money because you will know your thing so, so well. But if you're just a credit repair company doing everything, you're doing nothing, right? Because you're not going to be specialized enough to really, really help your people. So I know that's a different topic, and I talked about that a couple weeks ago. And if you're in my group coaching, I talk about all the time, like have your niche. But any other questions we can help you guys that are on the call with, or you guys who are watching it live, if you want to comment, if I see your comment while we're on here, we'll answer it. If not, we'll answer it in the comments, and maybe Ashley can help me answer comments that we see come across.
So I hate to be the one, but I be having a lot of questions in my head. And
Please.
it's not for me, basic, but it's to get out. So somebody may be having that question in their head and don't know how to ask it. So we mentioned a lot of things about processes. So what would be like a 5-step or 10-step process in handling specifically student loans, whether it's federal or state, and if there's a difference between, are they disputed differently?
Okay.
Good
This is a good question. Ashley, do you want to take it? Or you want me to, or you want to?
So I will start by saying that there's definitely a difference between private education loans and government loans.
Very different.
There was like say during the CARES Act, how everyone's loans that were government backed were placed in mandatory forbearance because of COVID. Private education loans were not placed in this mandatory forbearance, and there's also less forgiveness options for private student loans. Although private student loans, when they are defaulted and already sent to collections, they do have a higher like a threshold for like a settlement amount. Like they'll take a lower percentage of that debt. Government loans, not so much. But they also don't have the like the benefits of having like the different programs like borrowers defense against, what is it? Borrowers defense against it's for schools that like went out of business or
Yeah, it's, yes,
common
yeah.
things.
They don't have that. Yeah, yeah. The private's held at a different level. You can't file, private student loans in bankruptcy. A lot of people think you can. There's a lot of things with private. Ashley, that was great. So I did want to point out, you said something about settling debt. Yes, private will settle for a lot less off than the government will, but I do want you to know the government will settle. But I had a client that came to me and I settled his government student loans. And I got quite a bit off because I'm a little haggler kind of personality. Okay, nice, but test me, right? That kind of person. So I was able to get a lot off, but his taxes were levied. So with student loans, they can levy your tax return. So it was about time to file his taxes, and I said, "Hey, listen, you cannot file your taxes because if you file your taxes before you actually pay the settlement, then that will null and void the settlement because they have already levied your taxes, and they will get all of their money rather than the settlement." This guy, made me so mad. Did you know he filed it the day before he paid it, and then he paid it, and he was wondering why they took the rest of the money out of his taxes? I said, boy, you were supposed to pay the settlement, lock that in, and then you file your taxes.
Oh,
He's like, I didn't know that they were going to find out I filed my taxes that soon. What?
That's what I said.
That's what I said to you. Um, but right, there's no government programs for private, right? And so here's a tip for you guys out there who have government student loans, and someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I can refinance your government student loans, give you a better interest rate in this private student loan." The answer is always 100% no.
no.
Do it. You have no government protection. You don't get the pleasure of, something happens in the world and you get a forbearance. You don't know what's going to happen unless you're going to pay that thing off like in the next couple days, right? Don't do it, because if something happens in your life that is, which happens to us, right? We don't know what's going to happen in our life. Something devastating can happen. The government's going to help us. Private will never help you, right? And so just don't do that. Keep it with the government. And it's tax deductible interest, by the way. So I don't know if you know that, but you're getting a write-off on those taxes you're paying on it. It is, however, a compounding interest, so that sucks really bad. But all right, so as we're throwing out some pointers on student loans, another pointer on student loan, I go in and I teach this to college students all the time. When you have student loans, typically with government loans, you have some that are subsidized and some that are unsubsidized. When we are in school and we have those in forbearance, because we haven't made a payment on them, there's no activity. So it's not helping our credit score. It can only hurt us. And it hurts us if the balance exceeds the original loan amount. So I got a loan amount out for 5,000. Now I owe 5,500. That's bad. That can drop my score. So I could have all very beautiful credit, nothing negative, but have a bunch of student loans that are over the original loan amount. And I'm going to have a really big drop in my credit score. So what I suggest to all of you out there who have student loans is make sure while you're in school, you're making a voluntary payment of at least the interest on those student loans. If you're not required to make a payment, right? This is a voluntary payment. You're paying the interest that's added each month. You can call them and ask them. They'll tell you, you make that payment. If it's a subsidized loan, make at least $5 to keep some activity on it. This is going to help you in the end, because remember, it's compounded interest when that comes out of deferment. So just, making those interest payments on the unsubsidized and the subsidized, making a $5 payment will go a long way to saving a lot of money for you, a lot of money, but also really helping your credit score. So
That's great advice.
all right, I'm opening the floor again, see if anybody has any questions, or Ashley, if you have any tidbits you think are really important for people to know about student loans. And remember, our audience is credit repair professionals, financial advisors, loan officers, real estate agents, and consumers. So you can speak to all of them.
Well, to the consumers, if you think your student loans are in forbearance or deferment, I still want you to go contact your student loan servicer to see when that ends, because I doubt you guys have checked your mail. I doubt you have the right address on file. Make sure you contact them, because people that think that they're in deferment or in forbearance are showing up with these 90-day late payments, and it could all be prevented by just being proactive in contacting them.
Yes. And if you don't know, you can go to studentaid.gov, log in. You all have one. If you have government loans, all of you have a studentaid.gov. A lot of you don't know what the password is, but if you play around there, you'll get your password within a few hours, or for a few minutes, excuse me. Go in there, because it'll also tell you who your servicer is, and it will actually tell you when your due date is. but it'll also let you know if there might be some opportunities for, forgiveness, right? The forgiveness applications are there. If you need to do a consolidation, it'll walk you through that entire process without any help from anyone else. There's a lot of resources inside of there that I think it's important that you know. Any other things? Any questions? We good?
I think we're
Well,
good.
I am so happy that you guys were on the live. Thank you for watching. And as always, if you have any questions about student loans, watch this video. No more emails, no more phone calls. This is your message. But we appreciate you. And every Tuesday, 12 noon, we'll have Tuesday top tips. And I'll bring other people on that have a message. Ashley, you'll be one of my go-to people. Thank you for all your
For having me.
appreciate you very much. And sometimes it'll just be little old me, but I promise you I'll give you something good. Okay. All right. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye. Thank you, Ashley.
thanks.
Thank you, everybody.